All right, I think we're live. Mic check 1 2 1 2. Mic check 1 2 1 2. If anyone in chat can hear me, just push 1. All right, thanks for the confirmation. Welcome back to the Black Brain Trust. This is episode 441, Black Tech Talk. Please hit the like button as you come in, share the video if possible, hit that notification bell so you get all the updates from the Black Brain Trust, including those posted on the community tab. Docket and description beneath the video for you to follow along with. If you want to engage in the discussion, there'll be a link in the chat for you to click on. When you click on the link, make sure you raise your hand so that one of us can acknowledge you and advance you to the panel. If you're trying to get into IT for the first time, we do offer IT mentorship here. If you're trying to go from one IT role to another, we do offer IT coaching. If you are, if you have any questions about a resume or cover letter or salary negotiations and wages, we do offer advice in that area. If you are in the tri-state area, you're looking for IT contract work, the Golden 11 does have recs on the table. All right, let me kind of give the introduction and then wait for people to join in. The reason why we're having this live stream is because this has been off, this has been talked about for quite a few months now, probably since like August or something like that. And people have been asking, well, what about trying to get into big data? What about big data? What are we going to do about getting into big data? How does a person who does not have a IT background get into big data? Big data is all about crunching numbers and whatnot for the most part. And what's happening here is that you don't need to be an expert in DB or database technology to get involved into database administration. Before, there was roles such as data analyst or just ETL, right? Exchange, transfer and load, right? ETL. Companies have kind of moved away from that. Now they're looking for people who can do business intelligence and database administration, database, big data engineering, things of that nature. They're looking for more than one skill set within database administration. BI is usually paired now with DB. So BI, DB, and now data science, right? So now you have all of these buzzwords floating around, but they all revolve around each other. And so you can't just say, well, I'm a DB and that's it. No, you gotta be something, you gotta bring that business intelligence to the platform as well. But the core underlying function of both would be Linux. A lot of it falls down to Linux. Linux is probably the legs behind, that holds up a lot of this stuff. And so we'll go over the docket, and we'll continue from there. But this is just to give everybody a primer as to why we're doing this, because a lot of people are saying, well, I thought you need to get your A+ first, and your A+ is more important than anything else. And it's like, wait a second, let's slow down, Gunpowder. Let's get over this, man. We got 8 people watching, only 3 likes. Can we get more likes before we get started? Because mics are free. All right.
Sir Mike, top of the morning.
Hey, what's going on, dude?
Chilling, man. Just getting a little coffee here.
All right.
Getting ready to have a little discussion.
I know Josh is supposed to be joining us as well at some point. Wait for Josh to come around. Give him a few seconds.
Okay.
Update the docket real quick.
Don't mind the Golden State, Indiana game playing in the background.
All right.
Folks.
All right, just give me a few seconds. Let me update this docket again before we get started, because there's 2 things missing from it.
What it do?
What's good, y'all? How y'all doing?
I'm chilling, bro. I figured this would be right up your alley.
Oh yeah, I couldn't miss this one. I seen when you posted the reminder, so I was like, yeah, I gotta get down.
Yeah, I hope this isn't too early for you.
Nah, we were early guys, man. Early risers over here.
Okay.
Oh yeah, definitely got to cook for the kids. You know what I'm saying?
That's exactly what I'm doing right now.
I didn't know Josh can cook, man. I always thought Josh was a cereal guy.
Oh nah, man, I put it down, man.
That's what's up. Hey, what do you cook, dude?
I cook more Southern cuisine, to be honest, because that's where I'm from. I know it's unhealthy, but I try to, make it as healthy as possible. Only use breast, But gumbo, etouffee, shrimp, seafood, all that. So.
Okay, that's what's up. We got to do a food chat, Mike.
A food chat?
Yeah, man.
What are we for the for the needy and the hungry?
No, man. I'm talking about like cuisine and shit.
We was trying to do some wanderers or something like that. Sally Southers or something like that.
Food pairing, wine pairing, shit like that. Butterlay stuff.
All right, let's get started, man. Get the first items up. All right, first time on the document is from Red Hat, the evolution of a Linux sysadmin. Tell how a sysadmin went from hobbyist and level 1 tech to big time at Red Hat. So let me expand this out. We've all got a story, right? I don't know if anyone could read mine, but to the right audience, it might sound familiar or at least relatable. My life is sort of a fracture between 2 things I'm passionate about. One is the off-road industry and the other is open source software. Some time ago, I was involved in a YouTube challenge where a bunch of us off-road enthusiasts were asked to share our story. And I told the tale of how I got involved in Jeeping and why we do what we do in that space. Here I am about to tell you the other side of my story, where I'm a computer guy with a bunch of nerd cred. I was a kid in the 80s before computers were everywhere you looked. My dad, though he was his generation version of a geek, a telephone guy, son of a handyman who worked his way through the Depression, making whatever he could out of whatever he had. As a kid, my dad involved me in all sorts of projects involving building things or wiring. And we even built an electrified wooden toy helicopter together. I learned from him that you could build your own happiness. I always joke with people that I learned my alphabet on a Texas Instrument computer connected to our living room TV. My first game system was an Atari computer with a 5 1/4 floppy drive. In the early 90s, my dad brought home a state-of-the-art 486 desktop computer, our first modern computer. He gave me his old Atari to put in my bedroom and tinker on, and that's what I did. The 486, though, that thing had a modern operating system on it, and I was nothing short of enthralled. A friend introduced me to some local dial-up bulletin board systems. Interesting. That, I have to say, is what started it all. I learned so much from this community of like-minded folks, all dialed into the little BBS. Eventually, I became very curious about how the BBS itself worked and started tinkering with BBS software. I found the space to be expensive, though you needed hardware I couldn't afford. Then came the internet. As I mentioned, my dad was a telephone guy. He was, at the time, an engineer at a local telephone company. One of the partner companies under the same umbrella as his teleco was starting up an internet service provider. He was able to get it in early, and I was one of the first kids in my grade to get access to the internet. Interesting. The internet was a very different place. At the time, you dialed in, so it was much slower, and because of the speed and the technologies involved, it was very much a text world. It was certainly not the entertainment source it is today, but to me, it was still just amazing. I had a friend who was just as intrigued by technology as I was. He and I were both interested in the world outside of the end user experience of these neat little computer things. We read everything we could to get our hands on. We read about websites and servers and how all of these things work together. We read about some of the darker sides of technology, the hacker's handbook, and how phone phreaking worked. I even learned a bit about how to pick locks. Lucky for me and my parents, I've always been guided by a pretty fierce sense of morality, or my life could have turned out much differently. Our reading and learning eventually led us to Linux. The word free associated with Linux caught our attention. I didn't have a job. I was in high school, so free was good. Little did I know that picking up the first Linux distro, Red Hat 5.0, I still have the CDs, would steer me into the career I worked at for my entire adult life. My friend, by the way, he runs the engineering team at that ISP I mentioned now. I guess our curiosity worked out pretty well for him too. During the summer between my sophomore and junior years in high school, I picked up and started tinkering with those Red Hat 5.0 install disks. I installed and reinstalled and reinstalled that OS on my little 486 until I finally got it right. I finally got dual booting working so I could keep my Windows environment and play with Linux. After I graduated, my parents bought me a new PC to use for my schoolwork in college. So I was able to turn my little 486 into a dedicated Linux machine. By now, we've moved from dial-up internet service to dedicated cable, 500 megabits per second, baby. I ran the website off my little 486. I lost track of the number of times I had to wipe and reinstall that system because some malicious actor broke into my poor little machine and flattened it on me. But I persisted, learning something else each time. While I was in college, I worked in level 1 tech support for the ISP I mentioned above. I didn't love it. I had no control over the services I was supporting, and let's face it, level 1 tech support is a frustrating IT job. I spent 5 years doing that, trying and failing to get into the system administrator group at the ISP. Eventually, I moved up into a network support role, which was much better than level 1, but not where I wanted to be. I was okay at networking, and I certainly could have made a career out of it, but it wasn't what I wanted to do. I wanted to run servers. I wanted to run Linux. So after 7 years at the ISP, I left and started a job as a network administrator at a small web host. We were a team of about 10 people, though that varied during the time I was there. Network administrator was a very loose title there. I was responsible for everything that had a CPU in it. I even had to replace the filter in the building's AC unit. I was responsible for network gear, some WAN links, Cisco routers, switches, and of course, Windows, Linux, and BSD servers. This was much more in line with what I wanted to do. However, I didn't love what they were doing or how they were doing it, not just from a technology aspect, but from a business perspective. They did some things that I thought was questionable. Still, though, I was gaining experience in so many ways. I implemented more and more Linux systems to replace Windows and BSD systems there. Architect improvements, and generally did the best job I knew how to do. After about 3.5 years, I left that web host for what I thought would be my last move. I started as a Linux system administrator at a small liberal arts college near home. By this time, I'm married, and my wife and I are planning on a family. Higher education has some benefits that many people might not know about. It's a great atmosphere, and they put a lot of emphasis on betting yourself, not just putting in hours. The only real downside is that the pay is lower than in the private sector. Still, this was an increase over what I was making, and I didn't know it at the time, but I was walking into a team that helped set me up for the future in ways I couldn't have imagined. See, I believe that IT is made up of 2 types of people: folks who see IT as a lucrative career, and folks who are passionate about IT and get paid to do it. This place was about 50% passionate people. I had never worked so closely with people so excited to do what they do. I felt like I was at home. I was learning new things every day and talking with some of the most brilliant IT people I'd ever met. What's more, they all wanted to share what they knew. Well, over time, that slowly changed. Those brilliant people took other jobs. Some changes in management forced some others out, and eventually, I found that I was one of the few left who was still passionate about what had been so important to the mission at the college. More cloud adoption meant less need for a do-it-selfer like me. My "I'm going to retire here" plan started to crumble. I eventually moved into a new role they created for high-performance computing, which had promise. We started deploying the college's first HPC cluster. Then I got a message on one Sunday afternoon from a contact I had made within Red Hat. I met Mark, Uncle Mark to those who know him, through the Red Hat Accelerators, a customer advocacy group that Red Hat runs, and of which I'd become a member in late 2018. We hung out at a summit in Boston in early 2019, and apparently we liked what we saw. He liked what he saw in me. He let me know that the team he's on would likely to have an opening soon, and he thought I'd make a great addition. Now, for me, the prospect of a job at Red Hat sounded almost too good to be true. I've been a fan of Red Hat since, well, remember when I said I bought that first Linux distro, installed this in 1997 or so. It was Red Hat Linux. I'd base a career on a Linux distro I bought out of the interest in a better way of doing something when I was a kid in high school, looking for a cheaper alternative. Now here I am a few months into a technical account management at Red Hat. I guess you could say I'm pleased with where this path has taken me. Keep it techie. What's your take on what you've heard so far, if you're still here?
Oh yeah. I agree with most of the article. Well, I mean, he was basically talking about his background. I mean, is his background was, not like mine, you know what I'm saying, where he was able to get on the internet early. But I mean, I remember when I first got on the internet. But I mean, Red Hat is where you want to start at. You know what I'm saying? Red Hat is the industry standard uh, as far as Linux goes. Any production servers that are out there run Linux. I mean, you've covered articles on, the supercomputers and all that stuff. A lot of them, some of them have Linux on it, So that's all I can add to it. My bad.
No, it's cool. I think that people need to pay attention. I think Black people should pay attention to how he got started, right? He took what little he had and made something better out of it. He had an old computer. He had the free Linux distributions and stuff like that. He utilized his time wisely. I talk about this stuff all the time, utilizing your time wisely. That 90 minutes a day of just reading and studying and things like that a day, not going to kill you. And look where he is now. Not so much because he's probably a pale face, but because the time that he's putting in is the right amount of time that you need to be implementing in order to get to where he's trying to get to right now. He wanted to work for Red Hat. He just didn't know, he just didn't have the opportunity to come in. He just happened to actually meet somebody at a summit who recognized his enthusiasm, and he's dead on the money about the two sides of IT. There's two types of people in IT. Dead on the money about that. There's a lot of people out there, at least in these Black spaces, who want to say, get the bag, get the bag, get the bag. And they don't think about where their trajectory for opportunity is going to come from, because they're already concerned about is the bag itself and not actually doing what makes sense, long term. Okay, you took a 6-month contract for $500 an hour, but you didn't take the time to consider that working at a community college or one of these state schools could actually open up an opportunity for you later on down the line, even if it does pay less.
Yeah, and that's true, Mike. I agree with you. I mean, it's all about networking too, along with that. But yeah, I study all the time. I'm like, whenever I ain't on here with y'all, I'm on the computer learning something new. Like I was looking into Ansible not that long ago, and I don't want to go down no different road, but yeah, that's some new technology, and I spoke on it before, dealing with automation, IT automation. So I've been trying to, study up on that, get smart on that. So, I mean, just take the time. I mean, the information is out there. Linux is, like he said in the thing, is open source. So you can access all the you have access to all the training via the internet. So all you got to do is go out there and you got to have that drive to want it. You know what I'm saying? So.
I'm not sure if Complex wanted to add something. I saw he had his hand up. All right. All right, let me jump to the next item on the docket. Yeah, so we're back to CompTIA again. And why are we putting CompTIA Server Plus on here? Because CompTIA Server Plus is a lifetime certification, but actually the primer into what's going to get you recognized from a server administrator standpoint. Most companies, Dell, Lenovo, HP, they won't let you touch their servers unless you're Server Plus certified, at least from what I've seen within warranty. And so whether they actually do it or not, it's better to have it and not need it than to need it and not have it. So I'm throwing this out there so that people can understand what Server Plus is all about. So Server Plus candidate, so Server Plus candidate, Server Plus certified candidates can work in any environment because it is the only vendor neutral certification covering the majority of server platforms. It is the only industry certification that covers the latest server technologies, including virtualization, security, and network attached storage. CompTIA Server Plus certification validates the skills necessary to be a server administrator. Successful candidates will have mastered the following concepts: virtualization, storage, security, technology. What skills will you learn? Server architecture, security, troubleshooting, diagnose and resolve system hardware, software, connectivity, storage, and security issues. Server administration, I think this is spelled wrong. Manage and maintain servers, including OS configuration, access control, and virtualization. Networking, configure systems for network connectivity, including physical and logical elements. Storage, support storage devices technologies, this is spelled wrong, including capacity and growth planning. Disaster recovery, understand disaster recovery, implement backup techniques. So this is like the baseline of what this person in the article was mentioning. And so companies that trust CompTIA Server Plus: Intel, Lenovo, Microsoft, Xerox, HP, Dell. So remember I said earlier, just a few seconds ago, that you can't work on some of their in warranty servers and clusters unless you have that CompTIA Server Plus. From my experience, they won't even talk to you, because when something goes wrong and they say, well, who touched it? Well, this guy touched it. Well, was he Server Plus certified? Oh no, he wasn't. Well, that could actually void your warranty. So those are things that they look for. But even from a field engineer standpoint, I know field engineers, we talked about this last week, but guys who work on 2, 3, maybe 4 tickets a day, and they drive around, most of the time they have some form of A+ or Server Plus certification. And it says jobs that use CompTIA Server Plus: server support technician, server administrator, storage administrator, IT server technician. These are the sort of roles. So it's a lifetime certification. You don't need to update it every single time. You pass it once. It's 100 questions. You need to get 70 right in order to pass. And it's 90 minutes, multiple choice. I haven't taken it in quite some time. I don't know if Josh has taken the last one, but do you know if there's any performance questions on there? Like you got to put together a Linux server or something like that? Configuration?
I haven't taken this certificate at all, but I know some people that have.
Oh, I think
from what I heard, I don't think it's any. Unless I'm wrong, I don't know.
Yeah, I think Christian Todd had taken the certification, so I might have mixed both of y'all up. But yeah, but last time I looked at one of the documentations, I actually just got an email maybe about last month about them looking for subject matter experts for the next variation of Server Plus certification. So it sounds to me like they're going to update it by the end of the year. And they're looking for people to actually input, who have the certification, to actually input what it is that they do and what they can contribute to the certification renewal. So the last documentation I looked at it, though, it did say something about configuring Linux. So that's the only thing I can really recall. Like actually it was BIOS. I think they talked about like a BIOS, how to configure a BIOS or something like that. But that comes with it. I don't see anything wrong with getting it. I think people should get it if you're going to move into this area. All right, next item on the docket is from the Linux Foundation. So Introduction to Linux, LFS 101. This is like the base standard for Linux administration. If you can pass this exam, you can pretty much do your job, because all of the responsibilities within the role actually curtail around, not just the certification itself, but the actual job. So not saying you get this certification, you're going to automatically get a job. They're just saying that if you do pass the certification, high probability that you could actually do your job. So there's not going to be a whole lot of questions that needs to go into it that you wouldn't be able to answer. So this LFS 101, LFS 101, Linux powers 94% of the world's supercomputers. Most of the servers powering the internet, the majority of financial trades worldwide, and 1 billion Android devices. In short, Linux is everywhere. It appears in many different architectures, from mainframes to server to desktop to mobile, and on a staggeringly wide variety of hardware. Moreover, 97% of hiring managers reported that they will prioritize hiring Linux talent relative to their other skills areas in the next 6 months. And 44% of hiring managers say they are more likely to hire a candidate with a Linux certification. All right, this course explores the various tools and techniques commonly used by Linux system administrators and end users to achieve their day-to-day work in a Linux environment. So I mentioned that earlier, that if you can pass the certification, you can pretty much do your job. It is designed for experienced computer users who have limited or no previous exposure to Linux, whether they are working in an individual or enterprise environment. So they're predicating this training on the fact that you come from nothing, you're green behind the ear. So what you'll learn: good working knowledge of Linux, how to navigate through major Linux distributions, system configurations, graphical interface of Linux, basic command line operations, common applications of Linux. So this is 18 chapters. You should be able to knock out 1 chapter a day at the very least. There's no prerequisites, and it's free. You're good to go. 60 hours of course materials, self-paced, 14 weeks of access to online courses, is audit mode, optional paid certificate. So if you paid for it, this would actually connect to your LinkedIn, and it will show that you actually passed this training, and you actually be optional for to take these certifications for LFCS from Linux Foundation. We talked about this here that most people had probably missed out on. It was posted on the community tab for cloud engineer and cloud developer, discounted heavily, 80% off, and you could not beat it. Sale ended on the 21st. So if you missed it, you're SOL. But that being said, before you even start talking about database administration, got to understand the working foundation first. Not sure if anybody on the panel agrees or not.
Nah, you're 100% right. Because once you get into these jobs, they expect you to understand the command line, which is the very basics of Linux. If you don't understand that, then you ain't gonna be able to do the job, in my opinion. So.
I'm not sure if Christian can hear us.
I had a
put some volume on it.
How's this?
Good.
Cool. I had to unmute myself. Sorry about that.
You have anything you want to add to what's been said so far?
Yeah, they expect you to pretty much know everything underneath it. If you're going in doing database administration, they expect you to do the simple task too of managing some of the filing system in Linux.
Good. Yep, and I think this is all just a good primer, man. I don't, I've taken my sort of Server Plus years ago. It might have been like SK002. I think they're up to like 004 now, but I think they're moving on to 005 soon. I don't have any regrets about it. Has helped me greatly. When I got a role working inside of a data center, and when I came in there, I looked at the whole entire environment. I was kind of speaking in technical jargon. They were surprised that I actually knew everything that was around it. How many inches were in a unit, how to move server racks and things like that. It should be 2-man operation every single time if it's more than one U. How to wire through a raised floor. For those who don't know what a raised floor is, means that those tiles that you're walking on, you can pick those tiles up and actually drop down in there and funnel the wiring, pull the wire through there. HVAC systems and management and things of that nature. How cool or hot should the environment be? Things of that nature. How to move racks around and things like that. How to manage and decommission and start up and launch systems. So there's a lot that goes into working in a data center than just the thumbnail that you see on this live stream. Some black guy inside the data center just standing in front of the computer.
Or like Future's video.
Like what?
Have you seen Future's video? I forgot the name of it. But they're like running through a data center, unplugging cables.
Oh man, I haven't seen that. I have to go look for that. I don't know what the title of that is. All right, let's get to the meat and potatoes here. All right, this is from dice.com. Database administrator salary, skills, and job prospects. All right, database administrators are the unsung heroes of tech. They keep the backbone of any computer, or any company or service, i.e. the actual database, running smoothly and available to users and customers. No wonder some studies have named it one of the fastest growing jobs in America. But what exactly does a DBA do on a day-to-day basis, and how can you become one? We'll go through some of the basics in this article and provide some learning platforms for you to start your journey. Every bit of data we access is stored somewhere. The database administrator makes sure to build and maintain access to those databases housing all of the information, all of our information. To make sure servers have as much uptime as possible, for example, and manage the load for those servers. Depending on the size of the company, a database administrator may manage a few servers with gigabytes of data or an entire server farm with terabytes of data. In addition to dealing with on-premises infrastructure, they must frequently manage the cloud-based systems that may hold a company's data. According to Bird & Glass, which collects and analyzes millions of job postings from across the country, employers are looking for database administrators with a unique mix of hard skills, the ability to work with specific apps and platforms, as well as soft skills, the ability to communicate. Check out the full chart. So specialized skills, SQL, and the baseline skill is communication skills. Database administration is a specialized skill, but the baseline skill is troubleshooting. Specialized skill is Oracle. Baseline skill is problem solving. Teradata DBA is a specialized skill. Teamwork, collaboration. Specialized skills is SQL Server. Baseline skill is planning. And ETL, I mentioned this at the onset of this live stream, extraction, transformation, and loading. So writing, so technical writing. Specialized skill is performance tuning, and the baseline skill is detail oriented. So you got to be specific about what you're tuning, because you don't document that type of stuff, man. Somebody else walks in there and doesn't understand what your, what's been tuned and how it's been organized. It's a recipe for disaster. right? What technology should a DBA learn? A DBA has a choice to make, Microsoft or Oracle. Both companies have robust popular database options and courses for learning those stacks. Both utilize SQL, structured query language, but the core languages are different. Specifically, Oracle uses Java programming language and Microsoft relies on the .NET framework. If you're just beginning your database administrator career, .NET is a great starting point. There are tons of jobs that specifically call for it as a skill. As you can see from the chart of burning glass skills, SQL is also vital. It's a very old language, born in 1974, but still forms the foundation of relational database management. Knowing SQL will give you the knowledge to better handle the quirks and nuances of both Microsoft and Oracle databases. Over the past 10 years or so, NoSQL, not only SQL is what that stands for, has also gained some steam among database administrators and other infrastructure experts, but seems unlikely to entirely replace SQL or traditional relational databases. If you're a database administrator, chances are very good that you'll eventually end up working with large data sets distributed widely across an organization. And in those instances, NoSQL is your best bet for quickly storing and retrieving requested data. In any case, NoSQL is worth studying because it highlights some of the flaws of relational databases that every DBA should know. What about the cloud? It's true, the cloud is everywhere, but just because more companies are opting to store and manage their data via a remote cloud server doesn't mean that database administrators are headed for extinction. Instead, the rise of hybrid environments, a mix of cloud-based and on-premise data storage, means that the DBA role is only becoming more complex by design. Many companies don't want to host their data in Amazon AWS or Microsoft Azure or other cloud-based services. Businesses with sensitive information, such as healthcare providers and law firms, may be best served hosting their own databases on premises, a tricky task for only the more advanced database administrators to tackle. Do I need a certification to become a DBA? It doesn't hurt. Both Oracle and Microsoft offer certifications in their respective programs. For example, Oracle offers an array of certifications ranging from database all the way through applications, operating systems, and virtualization. There are even certifications for Oracle Cloud. Meanwhile, Microsoft offers certifications in SQL database administration and development, all beneath the umbrella of the Microsoft Certified Solutions Expert program. Outside of Oracle and Microsoft, online courses from Udacity and other vendors can teach you the basics of database theory. If you haven't already learned those, on the most basic level, many database administrators majored in computer science before specializing in database-related topics. If you're just starting out as a DBA, interviewers will surely ask you about database theory and design. Job interviewers may touch on the following questions: maintaining, recovering, and rolling over databases. So they're talking about high availability, or HA. Your experience with various storage technologies, SANs, storage attached networks, NAS, network attached storage. No, we're not talking about the wrapper, right? A walkthrough of the client server model. So how does the host talk to the endpoint? That's what they're talking about here. Your experience with cloud versus on-premise. So basically traditional legacy versus next generation, which is cloud hosted environment. What does a database administrator make? According to an analysis of DICE data, the average database administrator salary is $93,435, although skill specializations can spike that still further. For example, Oracle DBAs can pull down an average $103,126, while SQL DBAs can rack up $95,501. The future for database administrators is bright. Bird and Glass predicts that job postings for database administrators will grow 11.5% over the next decade. Right now, the average time to fill for a DBA position is 37 days, which suggests a high level of demand on the part of employers. In other words, opportunity is out there provided you have the right mix of skills. We've talked about a lot of this stuff before. I'm not a DBA myself, but I do work with information architects, data architects, and I can tell you, they don't just talk the talk, they walk the walk about what it is that they do, and they'll quickly correct you if they think you're saying something out of character. Josh, you work at database administrators. What's your take on this?
Everything you read in the email is right, man. I mean, it ain't really much I can add to it other than I know the importance. One of the importance that you pointed out, or actually one of the specialized skills you need to know, the performance tuning. That's a big one, because you have to understand, converting the memory to help the database perform as best as possible. And also it also depends on what application the database is supporting, meaning the front end of the database. So you really have to understand, if this database needs to be on a cluster, they have what they call high availability clustering on Microsoft SQL. And then at the beginning, you were talking about the differences. Oracle MySQL is pretty much the same thing as Microsoft SQL. It's just the syntax is a little bit different when it comes to, typing the queries and all that stuff. And I've done videos where I just recently did a video on MySQL, which is free. You can download that for free. Anybody can download it for free. So you can learn how to actually work with databases, create databases and all that stuff. So
Christian, you have anything you want to add?
No, I don't have anything I want to add, but I do want to add, as keep it techie. In Linux, it used to be called Beowulf. That's how you would like cluster up the systems.
Yeah, Beowulf.
If you know how do you cluster that up in for SQL databases?
I mean, you talking about Microsoft on Microsoft's
MySQL
servers? Oh, MySQL. Nah, that's the thing. I never did clustering on MySQL using it. So yeah, but I have done it on Microsoft's, and with everything Microsoft, you can just do it all in
GUI.
In a GUI. So it's pretty simple. As long as you do it right, you're good. So.
Well, you have open source platforms that allow for SQL clusters.
Yeah.
Apache has a SQL, the ability to create SQL clusters if you go through their catalog. And so how well it scales, I don't know. But I know most companies do use it in terms of like service providers and Netflix and Pandora and those companies do use SQL clustering because they have to gather lots of that data, right, in order to create these big data lakes and shift right or shift left with the data. So I think that look at the open source platforms first, but there's definitely ways of going about it. It's just about how you go about it.
Yeah, I know it's a way to cluster it. I just saying looked into it and learn how to do it. I'm pretty sure it's just spinning up another server and creating because you have to have more than one node, and then creating the configuration files to actually to cluster it. So I just never did it.
I just didn't know if there's like a program kind of like Beowulf, just like, hey, install this, and then it can go out.
Well, you would need something like a SAN though, right? Because they have to talk to all of these storage clusters.
Correct.
Yeah.
Unless you spin it up in the cloud, and then that might be a different story. But even in the cloud, you still need a way to tell all of these instances, these AWS instances and Azure instances, to talk to each other. But I think there is a option inside AWS that says, are you trying to build a cluster or not? And that's where things start to get really expensive really quickly. I know it probably takes like a few pennies to just spin it up, but then if you, depending on how much time you're going to use on that cluster, that thing will get up to be $1,000 within a few minutes. But yeah, I think it's important that the specialized skills says, you know, communication skills. That goes without saying. We talk to each other all the time, so we explain, you know, some of our responsibilities and things of that nature, some of our skill sets and how we go about configuring things. I think if you follow Josh's channel, Keep It Techie, then you'll see that he kind of has a way of communicating how to spin up Linux instances or Linux distributions and things of that nature. Database administration, troubleshooting. You got to be able to think on your feet when you see a problem. That's what they look for. You can't, you know, you can't sit down and you know, pull out your cell phone and try to look for a lifeline. You can only go to, you can only use those sort of avenues very sporadically. They're expecting you to think on your feet. Problem solving for Oracle. I've never really worked with Oracle at that extent, but Oracle, the last Oracle I worked with was, I think was like 11G or something like that. Those things are very funky. So problem solving for Oracle, it seems to be very necessary. I never worked with Teradata DBA, so I can't really speak to that. SQL Server planning. So I want to highlight these things right here. So planning, writing, detail orientation, and problem solving and troubleshooting. Those are really structural pathways for a support person. So if you've taken the A+, you would understand a lot of this type of stuff. If you've taken the Server Plus, they talk about that on there as well. Teamwork, collaboration goes without saying. No way you can work in an environment and not talk to people that has excess of a certain amount of people on a team. And so that's about it for me. I don't know if anybody else has any, I'm not a DBA person, so I can't really speak to that. I know Josh works on some of these things. I don't know what kind of issues he's run into in terms of like, you know, planning out a database, troubleshooting. What are some of the troubleshooting steps that you may have taken to resolve the issue?
Well, recently I've been learning how to you know, troubleshoot clusters, because I'm not that great with SQL. I mean, I know a little bit, you know, well, not a little bit, I know enough to get the job done, but some things I don't know. Like I never really dealt with clusters when I first started out. So that's something I've been learning or picking up on how to actually fix at work. And a lot of times, you know, SAN drives, like I was talking about the SAN drives, dropping off and just troubleshooting that to, you know, try to solve those issues.
I know there's a simulator that you can buy. I'm trying to remember the name of it. It's gonna escape. It escapes me right now. But they used to do, well, actually they still do Cisco iOS training.
Bonson.
Yeah, Watson. There you go.
I got it. I'm loving it.
Yeah. Yeah, if you get a chance, you can drop the link in the chat for that.
Cool.
Name escaped me big time. I knew what the graphic, the website looked like, but I didn't know the name of it.
You said that was for iOS?
No, not Apple. The Cisco Internet Operating System. That's what Cisco calls it.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, Cisco has been used. I think there was a dispute before between Cisco and Apple on that, but Cisco has been calling it that for long before Apple even came up with the.
I was just about to ask, like, okay, what is this exactly? But okay, that clarifies it.
So Christian has a question in the chat. How complicated is .NET or C# to learn? My understanding of .NET and C# is that it's not really that difficult to learn than any other language. I think it's more about the resources that you use to actually go about learning it. From my understanding, you can learn it in about 6 to 9 months to be functional. But we talked about interesting topic earlier this week about algebra, right? The necessity for algebra. You really can't understand these languages until you understand algebraic expressions. It's just about as simple as that. I don't know many people who program who are not very well versed in math as well.
Or at very minimum had to obtain skills in math.
Yeah, I think the latest iterations of C# and .NET have really improved to the point where that level of syntax is not necessary that you would have learned on C or C++.
Well, I mean, we were kind of covering this whole, was it maybe last week or the week before? We were covering the whole low code, no code sector that's growing, where it's not going to really start to require, those type of skill sets as a core strength. It would benefit you to know, but the way they're going now, the software is being designed to maybe account for some of those things. So, it's not really reliant upon you per se.
Yeah, I definitely agree with that, Complex. I was recently looking into, because I'm looking at updating my website.
Mm-hmm.
And now there's an application called Hugo. So anybody, want to check that out, you can check it out. But it allows you to create a website, and it'll basically write all the code for you. Well, not all the code, you still have to do some work, but a lot of the code is already, it uses the Go language. And I think y'all talked about it once before.
Google.
Yeah. And all you have to do is go in. They have Markdown. It's like Markdown, and I'm not 100% familiar with it, but I've been trying to learn it, rebuilding. But you could build a static website where you don't have, the back end, MySQL back end, and makes the site run way better
Dynamically.
Yeah. It's not dynamic. It's actually static.
Wait, really?
Build it all. Yeah, you build it all locally.
Yep.
And then you extract it out, and it puts it in static. It puts it in HTML and CSS and JavaScript. And,
wow.
And
that means
it
it's
makes
real
it
light.
faster.
Yeah, I was gonna say that makes it light. Okay.
Yeah, like I seen somebody. I mean, their whole website was like 40 something
megabytes.
Kilobytes. Yeah, a whole website. Normally like a WordPress site is like
you got image files that are
500
than that.
Yeah, and you got to go through and compress file a lot of files as well in order to make it that small. But
okay,
like
interesting.
I think Google startup page is only like 1 kilobyte or half kilobyte or something like that. That's why it loads so quickly.
That's why it loads so quick, right?
Yeah.
Interesting.
Quick question.
Yeah, put some volume on your mic, brother.
Was that engineering cannabis?
Yeah, this is it.
Hey, what's going on, brother?
Hold on.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Quick question. The DBA with a little bit more experience basically with Linux is a front end design, but with a little bit of back end like Python, you can apply for a database engineer position if you just apply Python, because right now a lot of companies are looking for a database engineer. And with the skills you have as a DBA and just adding a back-end scripting language like Python, you can basically apply for that position, and everybody's knocking on my door for a database engineer. They're looking for a database engineer. So
to an extent, you can actually you'll get a lot of hits because it's such a popular term to right now. It's a hot buzzword, right? Python and database, but there's nuances that go into database engineers or database administration that are pertinent to actually get in that role. And so they'll question you over the phone. So typically an interview for IT is usually 3 interviews. 1 over the phone for the phone screening, and then 2 is to bring you in there, and then 3 you may get barraged by 3, 4, 5, 6 other IT people at the same time in the same room, and they're gonna grill you. And so the idea is to actually get past to actually get past that final interview, because you may get a lot of hits because you know Python and you can you have the term DBA under your on your resume, but I've seen some some interviews go really disastrous because they just didn't have the oomph, right? They didn't.
As soon as it was time to show and prove.
Yeah, they just didn't have the swag, and I think Johnny Blaze talked about that the other week. He went into an interview when he was younger for a DBA role, I think it was, and he had no clue about what they were talking about because there's just more nuance to what goes on in terms of database architecture.
Because if you look at it, some of the skills for a database engineer, like SQL, Linux, except but with Python, if you have Python, then you're a database engineer. But some of those skills with the DBA, they do match.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I think it's all about performance, like Josh was saying. Spending time breaking down the server. Even the previous article that we were reading about the guy who worked for Red Hat, he spent a lot of times tearing things down, building it back up, tearing it back down, building it back up, until it became repetitious for him that he can just do it with his eyes closed. That's the sort of performance that we're talking about. We talk about this all the time, that the ability to actually execute. What I see a lot of people do in the community is that they'll cram for an exam, but they don't really know what they're actually supporting or what they're trying to get themselves into. And so they know all the questions from the exam and all the answers, but they really, if you put them in the environment, they really a fish out of water. They really don't know what they're doing.
Right, real-time situational exercises, right? So if you work for Tesla and you manage one of their databases or something, what happens when fill in the blank happens? What do you do? So within the context of that environment, what would be the steps that you would take? I mean, you have to be able to frame yourself in a situation and utilizing the knowledge that you have, solve a problem. And that's what they're looking for.
And also one other aspect with dealing with data science, it's been said in an article I read that most data scientists just jump from one technical career and jump into the data science role. So if you're an engineer, chemical, or something, any kind of technical, you can just jump into it by learning the data science skills. So data science is just learning itself.
Yep. All right, let me bring up a couple of items here because I think to follow up on databases. So this is Apache Cassandra. No, it's not some SYSBM trick that guys talk about No, this is Apache's open source database platform.
SYSQL.
Yeah, that's actually a good one. The Apache Cassandra database is the right choice when you need scalability and high availability without compromising performance. Linear scalability and proven fault tolerance on commodity hardware or cloud infrastructure make it the perfect platform for mission critical data. Cassandra support for replicating across multiple data centers is best in class, providing low latency for your users and the peace of mind of knowing that you can survive regional outages. So this is specifically designed for that sort of next generation platform, right? Cloud computing, hybrid sort of perspective, on-prem storage and cloud storage in case something happens. And I don't like to bring this up too much, but when September 11th happened in 2001, that changed the game in IT completely. A lot of these companies that were operating inside WTC and other surrounding buildings did not test their resiliency. only like 1 or 2 companies, I think Bank of America and I think another company were able to really survive it. All their databases inside those buildings were crushed. They had no way of getting that stuff back. And so they were out of commission. Some of them went out of business. And so the ability to have high availability, the capability of having high availability to implement, you know, in this modern world is very important. And I think this is what they're pointing to Cassandra. So getting familiar with different database structures is actually going to be very important when you're a DBA.
Hey, Christian, did you want to speak on something?
No. I just had to take care of a problem real quick. I'm back though.
Oh, okay.
So that's Cassandra. I think getting familiar with a lot of non-traditional databases is actually going to be very important because a lot of companies do use them. All right, this other one is Apache Hadoop. So Hadoop is the Hadoop software library is a framework that allows for distributed processing of large data sets and across clusters of computers using simple programming models. It is designed to scale up from the single servers to thousands of machines, each offering local computation and storage. Rather than relying on hardware to deliver high availability, the library itself is designed to detect and handle failures at the application layer. So delivering the high availability service on top of a cluster of computers, each of which may be prone to failure. So this is what Maddox was bringing up earlier about clustering, and this is what Hadoop is actually for. So getting familiar with Cassandra and Hadoop is actually going to be very important because different databases do different things for that reason. You don't need to get certified in these areas, but actually understanding, having a literacy of it is going to be more important than actually getting a certification. They do have certifications for them. I just don't think that it's really important to get certified in that particular area because it changes every iteration that they release changes. Like, look at this. This is release 2.1 from October 2019. It contains 362 bug fixes and improvements and enhancements since 2.9. This is actually 2.10, sorry. So since 2.9, the amount of changes that's in it, can bring on new sort of features that you may not even be ready for, or that you may not even study for. So that's why I'm a big stickler for reading release notes and change logs, because I just like to understand what it is that was implemented and what was actually fixed and resolved. Even if I don't use it, because then I can actually, from a security standpoint, I can look in there and say, okay, I see that there was a vulnerability. Let me make sure that we're, let me open up a change management ticket on my side, and then we can see if, we can put a watch in this on ServiceNow or something like that, whatever ticketing system that you're using, and put an eye on something like this so that we can determine whether or not we need to be patching up as well.
Yeah, I used to kind of do the same thing when I used to build websites with Joomla, and I would use like plugins, and you'd want to use the plugins that are consistently being updated. So you do have to read the change logs to see how often, it's been updated, or, if there's been fixes to issues that users have reported. So, yeah.
Yeah, if we're just looking at this on screen right now, it says backport resource types GPU features to branch into 3.0, branch 2. And it says this also adds GPU as a native resource type built on top of the generic resource type feature. It adds support for GPU resource discovery, GPU scheduling, and GPU isolation. So what they're talking about doing is taking an NVIDIA or a AMD graphics card and leveraging the power of the GPU itself for performance reasons. GPU or GPU, general purpose graphics processing unit used for clustering is actually really important because it allows you to maintain that same CPU, whether it's Intel or AMD, and actually leverage other forms of
Processing power.
yeah, that processing power for scalability. So you can say my CPU is tapped, but I could also offset some of that that workload to that GPU and scale up. And it's immense too because GPUs have massive amounts of untapped power that's not being utilized. And I don't know why people have not, companies have not developed API wrappers and things of that nature that can actually tap into that power tremendously. It's a waste of time. Like, we always from the gaming community, we'll jump, every year or so to a new GPU, but they'll say GPUs are actually usable. The old ones are still usable. You can still leverage the performance of them if you actually had them inside of a cluster. That's actually a new market. I can only imagine that. Well,
you got. I mean, you got to kind of maybe look at it and like make a correlation to like the automotive market, right? Because you have like your aftermarket, right? So that's for like really just having your performance application, right? And then what to do with all of just sort of like the general purpose stuff, and even the stuff that has been replaced by the latest and greatest, right? Still has use. There's a lot of use in it.
Yeah.
So yeah, why not repurpose it, right?
Yeah, as long as it's cost efficient to use it. A lot of GPUs use a lot of power, and so you have to look at the kilowatts per hour versus the workload and determine whether or not this is actually feasible to use, or is it more feasible to actually just go out and buy a new graphics card and get lower power consumption while getting higher output.
Yeah.
All right, this one is from Postgres SQL. Postgres is a powerful open source object relational database system with over 30 years of active development that has earned it a strong reputation for reliability, feature robustness, and performance. There is a wealth of information that to be found describing how to install and use Postgres SQL through the official documentation. The Postgres SQL community provides many helpful places to become familiar with the technology, discover how it works, and find career opportunities. Reach out to the community here. So the latest release latest releases are on the side. I'll just click on it just to show an example. This release contains a variety of fixes from 12.0 for information about new features in major release 12. See section E2. That's what we're gonna click on. And so it says major improvements in Postgres SQL 12 include general performance improvements, including optimization to space utilization and read-write performance for B-tree indexes. So they're going down to the block level on disk drives. And so as long as there's space to be utilized, it's going to make better optimization of it. They're not just going to let a terabyte of storage go unused. They're actually going to optimize that space. Our partition and performance enhancements, including improved query performance on tables with thousands of partitions, improved insertion performance with insert and copy, and the ability to execute alter table attached partition without blocking query. So automatic inlining of common table expressions, so TTEs, reduction of wall overhead for creation of GIST, GIN, and SP GIST indexes. Not a database person, so I don't really understand that. Support for covering GIST indexes via the include clause. Multi-column most common value, MCV. Statistics can be defined via a create statistics to support better plans for queries that test several non-uniformly distributed columns. So enhancements to administrative functioning, including progress reporting and statistics to 4, create, index, re-index, cluster, vacuum full, and PG checksum. So these are all this is the syntax for not syntax, but this is the actual code parameters for databases. It's pretty universal. So if you understand it for one, you're going to understand it for many others. Just how you utilize each and every single one. I'm just looking at this so give you all an understanding of what databases actually require going into this. And so you see these sort of various updates to a database that are being released here. All right, so you got to understand these 3 databases, Hadoop, Cassandra, and Postgres, just as much as you need to know SQL at the baseline. Many companies use all 3 of the ones I just mentioned because they have different use cases and where they are actually usable. All right. Let me get to this next couple ones. All right, Mongo University. So this is for MongoDB. MongoDB certified DBA associate's exam. This won't be bad to actually get $150 for the exam. The exam formatting and grading, Mongo certified database exams, certification exams are delivered online using a web proctoring solution. So maybe they have a, you need to turn your webcam on. You have 90 minutes to complete the exam. Exam question types are multiple choice and check all that apply. There is no penalty for incorrect answers. All right, so this is the DBA exam. So the MongoDB certified DBA associate level exam is for administrators with knowledge of the concepts and mechanics of MongoDB. We recommend this certification for operations professionals who know the fundamentals and have some professional experience administering MongoDB. The knowledge and skills required for certification are detailed below. So what are the benefits? MongoDB ranks as one of the hottest job trends and one of the most highly compensated technology skills. Increase your visibility among hiring managers and recruiters, foster credibility with the employer and peers in the developer and operations community. So for today, we're just talking about operations. We're not talking about actually being a developer. So recommended study and training materials, it's all listed here. Anyone may take the exam, but we do recommend you complete an in-person training or take the following online courses. So MongoDB basics, basic compute cluster administration. That's what we were just talking about with Maddox. He was talking about how to go about building clusters for databases. MongoDB performance, security, and diagnostics and debugging. So sometimes in a DBA role, you may play a supporting role in going through diagnostics and debugging because there's so many nuances that happens when you start building out databases. The MongoDB certification practice exam, so that's what they have here. And they have an exam study guide is another great preparation resource. That's what it says. All right, so required knowledge, CRUD, not the sort of Hershey highways that you see in some of these moderators and some of these content creators undies, but create, read, update, and delete operations. Indexing is pretty normal for database administrators, database knowledge, replication, sharding, application administration and server administration. We talked about this with the Server Plus certification. You get the Server Plus certification, you'll know or have at least some kind of literacy at the bottom half of the application and server administration piece. Required general IT knowledge, fundamental database concepts, fundamentals of system programming, and basic JavaScript programming. So I don't know if Christian or Keep It Techie has basic JavaScript programming and things of that nature, but that's what they say here if you're in that area.
Basic. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, me as well. Basic. I could look at it and understand it.
Yeah, that's about it.
Yeah. And no one's expecting anyone to be an expert at that. You just need to know the basics. You know, this is why we talk about literacy on here a lot. Do you know about XXX? Do you know about it? Not are you a master teacher of it, but do you know the basics of it? That's where, you know, we like to be sticklers about is the literacy aspect. You're not going to go from bagging groceries to, you know, JavaScript DBA. It's just not going to happen. You got to have some fundamental understanding from the required general IT knowledge standpoint, fundamental database concepts, how to set up if you use Excel, that's like the precursor to all of this, right? So there's certain queries that you could put inside Excel that would actually give you certain outputs if there's data inside there.
And you can plug Excel to some databases to extract the information to make a spreadsheet.
Yeah. Yeah. All right.
Real quick before you go to that, we was talking about Server Plus earlier.
Yes.
I think they're going to start putting in more of the Linux filing systems onto the next test, like ZFX and Keep It Techie, help me out. What's the one that Unraid uses? They use ZFX?
Man, I'm sorry. I had to walk away for a second. What are you talking about?
Server Plus, they're going to put some more Linux filing systems into the next test, I believe.
No, Josh is Server Plus certified, so I don't.
Oh.
All right.
I was wondering, Unraid, do they use ZFX, or is it another filing system that they use?
To be honest, I'm not sure.
Okay. All right.
All right. This is from Microsoft. MCSA and SQL Server 2012 and 2014. This certification demonstrates your skills and breakthrough insights in developing and maintaining the next wave of mission critical environments. So what is involved? Step one, skills, possess foundational IT skills. So again, this is not for entry level. This is, this is for those who have at least a couple of years experience. If you feel that you do not possess these skills, consider pursuing one or more Microsoft Technology Association certification. So that's what they're basically talking about. Going back to the basics, pass the required exams, earn your MCSA SQL server certification, do some continuing education, and then earn an MCSE by passing one related exam. So find another exam that matches up with this and you can become MCSE. This would probably be a lot more beneficial to certify in than anything else, since a lot of companies do use Microsoft SQL. I think Josh works with Oracle SQL.
No, I actually work with Microsoft SQL.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right, so there's a BI component to all of this. It's called business intelligence. And what business intelligence actually does, it actually is the brain power behind the database itself. So what's going to drive it and what's going to be derived from it is going to come from the intelligence aspect. And so Tableau is very, very popular. If I remember correctly, CA Computer Associates just bought them for like $8 to $10 billion or something like that, something crazy just a few months ago. And so they do have a open source, free, publicly available BI component for your database that you may be working with. So visualize and publish data on topics you care about, explore, and be inspired by creations from like-minded data enthusiasts. So they have a BI collaboration tool, which is here. So easily create stunning interactive visualizations, no coding required. So this is actually taking out some of the heavy lifting that you would have traditionally had to do some years ago. And they've made it basically a low code, no code sort of situation for business intelligence. So that's in the, that's in the docket description beneath the video. All right, this one is from Microsoft, so Power BI. Maximize your BI investment with Azure Synapse Analytics. Learn to accelerate time to insight by integrating streaming analytics, machine learning, and AI in this on-demand Azure virtual environment. So what they're talking about doing is that Microsoft has made it immensely easy to drive business intelligence for DBs or business analysts with this new platform. So it says create a data-driven culture with business intelligence for all. And so this is the BI component of it. So get self-service analytics and at enterprise scale, use smart tools for strong results, help protect your analytics data. Many big companies are using this. That's a very pretty woman there. Power Apps, Power BI, Power Automate, Power Virtual Agents. This is like next level. I think it's free too, if I remember correctly.
Would this be similar to something like Salesforce?
Yeah, Salesforce is another BI.
Okay.
Major BI, but Salesforce is one thing. Then you have Salesforce Administrator, and then you also have this as well as a alternative to that.
Okay, so they're similar but different.
Well, they're different because of the branding, not because of the functionality.
Okay, understood.
Yeah. Microsoft is obviously going to toss this anyone's way who immerses themselves in SQL, right? So there's a whole lot of opportunities that comes when you get certified as a Microsoft SQL administrator or MCSA or MCSE. I know that Microsoft is one of the first companies to start that gold partnership program. When you have a staff that is Microsoft certified, then they have access to a lot of things that Microsoft has to offer from an enterprise standpoint, which is why certification is so popular. It's because companies want to maintain their tight relationship with Microsoft and Cisco. And so Salesforce has done the same exact thing. I just didn't cover Salesforce here because Salesforce is a whole entire live stream in itself. I think that people should be learning all of these things. You don't necessarily need to be certified in it, but if you are certified, I know people who have gotten Salesforce certified, and they're dominating in their area. So that is that. All right, let's talk about data science real quick. All right. This one is from towardsdatascience.com. Most data science jobs descriptions should stop requiring a PhD. I just searched on Indeed for a data scientist. Of the 20 jobs of the first page, 6 of them did not mention a PhD. 3 said it would be nice to have, and 11 had it as a requirement. I didn't spend hours looking at job boards or automate a system to scrape them all, but I am still confident that this is a trend. So why is this a trend? Data science, machine learning, AI, they are all new and exciting fields. My theory is that the people recruiting for these positions believe that these fields are incredibly complicated and that only someone with a PhD could possibly understand them. In my experience, while data science is a technical field, it is not necessarily any more technical than any other position in software. Other positions in tech are usually certified by someone with a bachelor's. Here are the major reasons I think it would be in most businesses' best interest to stop making a PhD a requirement. They are expensive candidates. A person with a PhD in data science, AI, mathematics, statistics, computer science, etc., is one of the most sought after people on the job market. Companies are constantly complaining about the lack of talent. And as my sample from the first paragraph indicates, businesses are all interested in the same candidate anyways. With such a high demand, you're only going to be competing by offering a salary that is potentially $200,000 plus. You won't find a candidate at all. There is a limited supply of these people. Most of them aren't even interested in working for a Fortune 500 company and would rather be working specifically for a university or a leading tech company, Apple, Amazon, DeepMind, Google, IBM, Tesla. These top-notch companies are also recruiting undergraduates, though. If they are grabbing all of the top undergrads, imagine how hard it would be to get a PhD. You should ask if you're. This is poorly written. You should ask yourself if you think the average PhD spend time on Indeed. I tend to think they do not. I expect people are either contacting them for work or are applying to one of the companies above and getting accepted. Even if a PhD spent a lot of time on Indeed, I'd ask yourself if your company stands out to a PhD. This brings me to point number 3. Your company might not be a good fit for a PhD. As we established, a PhD has a lot of choices of where to work, all of which are high salary. If you aren't also offering intrinsically interesting or world-changing work, they might get bored quickly. If doing things like ad hoc analysis in Excel as needed is in the job description, there is an expectation that it will be a tedious job. It takes a while for a new employee to onboard and begin to make work a significant contribution. So having to replace one of your data scientists who quit because they didn't enjoy the work would be bad. You wasted money and time on a candidate that didn't stick around long enough to produce value. Number 4, the PhD might not be what you're looking for. This really is the flip side of the reason above. A PhD is someone that does research. Most companies aren't doing research. By research, I mean creating new models. But you may say, if we're not doing research, how will we stay competitive? Most companies have not successfully implemented basic machine learning as is. I recommend going after someone that is interested in applying existing techniques to your data, optimizing them for your data, finding new ways to apply them to your business, and getting it operationalized for your business. Further evidence of this is highlighted in my article. how my team of undergrads won a data science competition for graduate and PhD students. It's a red flag to qualified candidates. If I see that your company is asking for a PhD to come in and manage your Tableau dashboards, I am immediately going to think that your company has no idea what's going on in terms of data science. And if you're sending the signal that your company doesn't know what it is doing, not only are you still not getting PhDs, you've also scared off the qualified people without them. This is very, very true. Very true. I see this in cybersecurity a lot. Misusing of cybersecurity resources, then having high turnover and being confused about why this is happening. You can't find enough people because your culture sucks in your environment. You're not really understanding that part. You think that picking in, plugging and playing people is just going to be a solution, and it's really not. You're actually hurting yourself or hurting the company in the long run because you have no idea what you're looking for. And this is a part of the problem with management and the disconnect that they have with teams. They just don't understand human resources and human capital. And this is why IT coaching is important. You need somebody who can come in and actually look at the environment and kind of cultivate it in a way that's going to be beneficial for the enterprise itself. That's what IT coaches do.
And you know what? That responsibility lies squarely on human resources, because the whole point of human resources is to put people in position, maximize on their skill set, produce based on their skill set, right? And the whole theory is that by this whole production model, you're going to turn a handsome profit. But you have to also create the environment to extract that.
Mm-hmm.
Human resources, look at it from that point. Well, how come we keep replacing this damn software engineer? How come we keep having to replace these people all the damn time, right? And when you ask that question, then you have to go to the managers and say, okay, well, look, what's going on over here that has us consistently and constantly having to, try to like hire software engineers? Because see, when you have that, guess what you then have? You have to pay higher. You have to pay higher to either attract people or keep people to stay. Now you're starting to hemorrhage money on the human resource capital side of things. So they're going to turn around and go back to management and say, what the fuck? So that's where human resources either has to bring a consultant in, right, to analyze what's going on in the work environment, and make suggestions for improvements.
Or outsource.
What were you saying, Mike?
Or outsource it to a third party.
Or okay, that has become the model, right? Because as a consultant, it's like, well, look, I may as well go to somebody that's got a turnkey solution and call it one.
In terms of the data science and PhD, I won't blame the human resources all along. Remember, data science is a new field itself. It didn't, using statistics and all that, but basically in terms of using programming and finding a database to handle big data is just coming up. So data science is just a new career path. So the human resources or anybody, they don't understand that. And PhD, and what's going on right now is true. When PhDs come in to an organization, they think they're going to create a new mathematical model that's going to change the whole system. The goal is to say, hey, I'm going to create a mathematical model that basically will change your product or change your process itself. But that's not so. What most of the time they're coming in is just taking their data, the existing data, and analyzing it and trying to basically make decisions from it. And over time, they get bored and say, okay, this is not what I signed up for. So PhDs are usually not necessarily needed, but for some jobs like in Amazon, where they're now pushing the envelope on AI and data science, yes, PhDs are needed. But in most roles for data science, you really don't need a PhD. You really don't need a master's. All you just need is to learn statistics, learn Python, JavaScript, learn all the algorithms. Even in one of your videos last, Mike, one of your videos where you used a decision tree. A decision tree is just a machine learning algorithm, a statistical algorithm too, the decision tree. So learning all that stuff is part of basically data science, and you don't necessarily need a PhD at all.
Mm-hmm. Let me finish up this last paragraph. Look, I understand that you want a qualified individual and you are having a hard time telling who is and isn't up to standard. My best suggestion is to simply refer you to Daniel Tuckerling's presentation for 2013 about how to interview a data scientist. Despite the fact that this video is approximately 7 years old, it is still a great process to follow when hiring data scientists. If you still want a PhD on your team, you're going to need a different strategy than posting an application to a job board. I think you need a way to both directly communicate with these people and convince them you have work that interests them. And that's why we talk about certifications, right? You don't necessarily need a PhD for this. There's different certificate courses on EDX that you can get, or Udacity that you can get. If you look at some of the functional models and examples on GitHub or some of these other spaces to download and kind of go through it.
Again, most data scientists are self-taught. Most data scientists, they go to take courses and classes and basically move into the arena. They don't need, most data scientists don't have the PhDs. Most data scientists I know have masters and maybe bachelors, and then they go in and learn statistics, more on statistics, on Bayes' principle, or learn more on statistics, then apply to a data science role. And most times you're not, in most of your data science roles, you're not basically creating a whole mathematical model from scratch. Mm-hmm. What you're doing is taking data, analyzing it, and basically, and even putting algorithms now is even easier with Python.
Yeah.
You can just basically put an algorithm and basically make a prediction, mm-hmm. in 5 minutes if you know what you're doing. So it's not so difficult. The difficult part is communicating your results, and also making sure the source of your data is correct. So the difficult part is not analyzing and putting algorithms and machine learning. That's the easy part. The difficult part is making sure the source of your data is good and processing it properly. And communication, when you're communicating to your higher ups, you're not just going to tell them, I plot this and I used an algorithm and this is it. No, you will have to communicate what that means, what your result means to the objective. So that's the big part. So machine learning and data science, it's not difficult to learn, and you don't need a PhD.
No, this isn't just a data science issue, but it's an issue with the IT industry as a whole. They don't know what they're looking for. They want Edward Snowden, for the price of a food service worker at McDonald's. This is a big problem because a lot of these companies have millions of dollars to spend in their IT budgets. And I don't think data science is a part of the IT budget. I think that's more a part of a completely different department altogether. But the point of the matter here is that they don't know what they're looking for. What I found is that it's better to cultivate the people within than to actually keep seeking people from the outside all the time. Someone who's a DBA for the last few years might have a particular advantage at managing data from a logical standpoint, and actually applying the soft skills and of being able to think on their feet, problem solve and resolve, and planning and tuning and things of that nature. That can be a part of data science, and all they have to do is go take like a data science crash course from some online institution, and I can almost guarantee you within a year they're already set to go.
Yeah, just if the DBA learns I'm going to go learn Python. I'm going to learn statistics. I'm going to learn how all this works. In a year, you can be dangerous and basically get into a data engineer position quickly. And the good thing about data engineering is there's a lot of openings and there isn't enough people to fill it. From data science to data engineer, people are begging. I know companies from Honeywell to Ingersoll Rand to different companies that call me every time and telling me, hey, are you happy where you are? Do you want to move? And I told them I'm not looking for anything right now. But that's the thing. With data science and data engineering, there's a lot of positions out there. All you just need to do is just get the skill. And I promise you, you don't need a PhD.
Yeah, that's why I always point out. So I definitely agree with you guys. That's why I always point out. I kind of got into, database or managing data, from working with Excel. Excel is the base level of any database or any data. That's what was used, in the past. People managed, databases were around, but most people didn't have access to them. But I'm saying, like, at a base level, people just tracking like little information. They were using an Excel table for that.
I was
And
going to
just
say an
by
Excel
understanding,
spreadsheet,
Excel spreadsheets.
spreadsheet is technically a database. Yeah. And all
Yes,
you're
it
doing is you're
is.
giving each cell, you can assign a value to it,
Yep,
right? To collect
exactly.
whatever type of data, and then it catalogs it all. No, you're right on
Yep.
point, dude.
Yep. And then they've started adding, and I wanted to say this a while back, they started adding the whole power queries into Excel. People still use Excel, as data source. And you can, I mean, obviously everybody know this. Well, if you don't, then you can export, SQL data to database. I mean, to Excel. You
Yep.
know what I'm saying? To try to play around with it, manipulate it. They got pivot charts, all kind of crap in there that you could do using Excel. So
Yeah,
No, you're
And
absolutely right.
yeah, but Josh, how long did it take you to learn all that?
it took a little while. I was real proficient with Excel. I mean, it didn't take me that long, to be honest. I got into it actually in the military. In the military, they always behind on everything, and so we tracked everything in Excel databases. I keep saying Excel databases, but it is, but Excel, and
No, you were
and so
using Excel as a database.
yeah,
That's what
pretty
I mean.
much.
It's like,
Mhm.
that was like what people used an Excel spreadsheet for, as a form
Yep.
of a database. A
Yep.
database became a standalone thing, right? Like it was kind of like the natural progression from an Excel spreadsheet to a standalone database. That's why I
Yep.
was like, no, you're absolutely right, dude. Like if you created, because see, I used to that's how I made the connection, to MySQL when I started messing around with Joomla, because we used to have to create Excel spreadsheets, like these extensive Excel spreadsheets for my record business. I had to catalog. I used to catalog every single detail about a record, and we had to create this automated table, kind of, sort of, right, to sort of manage and track the inventory as it went in and out. So we had to create this Excel spreadsheet and then connect it to QuickBooks. And then through the ordering system, it would basically update Excel. That's a database. And it was basically real time, updating and tracking and all that type of stuff through QuickBooks. And that was before, like, databasing really, well, in my view anyway, became a standalone thing. And like I said, I didn't encounter it until I started messing with Joomla, and that was all SQL.
Yeah, and it's all on what you want to put your time into, because the information is out there. You can get the Excel book for dummies. If you really want to learn Excel, and then that can help you, get into databases, then they got those books out there. I even got a free book I can give to anybody if they want it. a digital copy of it. The information is out there. It's not horrible.
Bill, send it.
Yeah, I have a website. I'll send it in the email, and if anybody wants it, I got training, a lot of training. So anybody wants it. It's some of it's old, but I'll put it out there.
Yeah, I think Judge Zilla in the chat has made a good statement. Shout out to Judge Zilla. He said Excel takes you one semester in college to learn, and you keep the booklet. You can there's actually small boot camps for Excel. Like 2, 3, 5 days, 7-day boot camps. That's actually pretty sufficient. I mean, it's only one sort of application that you really need to learn in order to get the primer of database, not sort of database architecture, but database administration down, because most DBAs know both. They both know SQL and they know Excel. And I think that's, some of the, like the article said, man, I think they was bang on in that article. Looking for PhD this and PhD that, you're disqualifying yourself from the whole entire candidate interview process, because there's not that many PhDs out there with data science behind their name.
I mean, literally, man, I'm really rocking with Joshua's position on this, that like, if you are like very proficient in something like Excel, then it's basically learning the mechanics of say like SQL, Python, one of the languages, right? But if you've been familiar with how to create a spreadsheet that collects and stores data the way you want it to in Excel, you basically have taught yourself like the fundamentals of database engineering.
And in terms of Excel is basically the first approach to data science. You can do linear regression in Excel.
Yep.
You can do a lot of regression analysis on Excel. So Excel is powerful. And the reason we moved to Python is because we had more ability to create mathematical models on Python. And it has a lot of libraries with Python too. But if you know Excel, you can learn data science quickly and easy. And again, you really don't need a PhD at all.
Yeah, Richard Victor Dixon brings up a very good point, and I forgot to mention is that your public library actually has the Excel courses available for free. If you have a very proficient library in your city, they always have a weekly Excel tutorials and things like that, how to best use it and whatnot. They even have advanced. That's actually a good point, Richard. All right, let me get to this last one. This is the last time on the docket. Insights from dice.com. Data science, Python, top popular specialization certificates. This is something we were supposed to go over about a month or so ago. We didn't do it. All right, let me spin this out. What kinds of technology-related courses did students pursue this year? Based on new data from Coursera, it's clear that data science, Python, and artificial intelligence are on the minds of the next generation of technologists. Coursera, a massive online learning platform, has provided a breakdown of its most popular courses in 2019. AI and related tech-centric content attracted its interest like never before. Read the blog posting accompanying Coursera's data. 2019 is the year AI became accessible to the masses rather than just for engineers. Here's a breakdown of the most popular specializations and professional certificates that Coursera taught in 2019. Specialization certificate, Python for everybody. University of Michigan is the creator of it. Deep learning from deeplearning.ai. IBM data science, the source is IBM. Google IT support from Google architecting with Google Compute Engine from Google Cloud, applied data science with Python from University of Michigan, data science from Johns Hopkins University, Excel skills for business from Macquarie University, data engineering, big data, and machine learning on GCP from Google Cloud, and improve your English communication skills from Georgia Institute of Technology. What can we discern from this list? First, it just reemphasizes how important Python has become. While always a popular general programming language, it's lately established a strong presence in highly specialized industries such as data science, machine learning, and finance. If you're new to programming and debating which languages to learn in 2020, you could do a lot worse than Python. Next, this list makes very clear that data science is a hot topic among students. That seems logical. Companies are awakening to the need for data scientists who can organize and analyze huge data sets for strategically valuable insight. And although it's a growth industry, data science is one of those highly specialized fields that requires a lot of education, not to mention familiarity with growing array of tools. You can't just jump in, hence the hunger for courses and certifications. One additional point for students considering a data science career is potentially quite lucrative. Data scientists with 3 to 6 years of experience can make an average salary of $108,000, according to a recent DICE breakdown. Those with slightly more experience, 5 to 8 years, who ascend to the director level can pull down an average salary of $169,000. And that's before we talk stock options, cash bonuses, and other perks. Check out this chart. A junior associate data scientist person, average salary is $91,000. Average years of experience is 1 to 3 years. Data scientists at the intermediary level is $108,000, 3 to 6 years. AI machine learning engineer, $127,000 a year in salary and 3 to 6 years of experience. Data science manager architect, $140,000 a year and 5 to 8 years experience. Chief senior principal data scientist, $146,000, 5 to 8 years of experience. And director of data science, $169,000 in salary and 5 to 8 years of experience. Python and data science tie into machine learning, which also enjoys a sizable presence on this list. According to a recent survey by /Data, developers know that they need to adopt machine learning skills in order to stay current with the industry. And they are obviously more than happy to head back to school to learn more, as well as land any certifications they need. We talk about certifications a lot on here, and there have been people who have come on here and said, I don't believe certifications are going to be helpful for people, but this article says otherwise.
No, it's a fact, because hiring managers and also HR people, they love to see that as well. I can tell you that from firsthand experience.
Mm-hmm.
So
is that?
Are you okay, Deborah?
You all right, bro?
No, I was just saying, is that who I think it is? Hey, no, real talk though. Hey, how you feeling, man? I know you was under the weather last time we talked, man. You feeling good?
Yeah, man. I just came back from the gym a little bit ago, man. I was torn out the frame, but I gotta fight it, man. I can't be getting knocked down like this. I'm too butter laid. Anyway, but machine learning, I have a position like that right now for a senior guy, and he's actually up in the Albany area working for a client of mine, fairly sizable client, and they're up in Albany and they're paying this guy. That's going about 160, 165 up there. Albany, $165. You living pretty good. So yeah, that's big stuff. Constantly get your certifications. They're very valuable to have. I don't care what anybody else says. Anybody who tells you certs are no good, they're leading you down the wrong path. That's not true.
All right, let me read this last portion. As we head into 2020, it's clear that technologists will need all of the education they can get in order to move their careers forward. Although the tech industry unemployment rate is currently low, employers are still willing to hold out for job candidates who actually have necessary mix of skills and experience. If you want to land the really lucrative jobs or keep expanding in your current role, you'll need to stay aware of data science, machine learning, and other hot disciplines. Engineering Cannabis has been very, very, very vocal about this on here, about Python this, Python that. He talks about this a lot.
I'm saying you've been pounding it in everybody's heads. Yep.
Yep. He's always in the chat, piping off about Python and AI and blockchain.
He happens to be dead on point though.
Yeah.
I'm a data scientist. I use it on my day-to-day job. Apart from the cannabis stuff, my day-to-day job is a data scientist, a machine learning. I use Python. I try to use JavaScript, but I use mostly Python. And this is what I do. And you most likely, and again, it's a hot job that I get calls almost every hour.
Yeah, I can believe it. I can definitely believe that.
Every hour saying, do you want to leave? We can offer you a better position. We can offer you more money. What do you want? And basically, you can write your own ticket with
What state do you live in?
I live in New Mexico, Los Alamos National Labs.
And why don't you come to New York, dude?
Real talk.
I'm not even being funny.
Real talk.
I come to New York. I got you instantaneously.
Real talk,
bro. You will come in here. You will be taking out 200 racks, no problem.
I talked about that last summer. I was offered a blockchain architect's role or blockchain engineer role in New York, $250,000 out the gate.
Real talk. If we need to exchange emails, man, let's make it happen.
Yo, I'm very I am serious as pancreatic cancer. Listen, you're down there. You down there in New Mexico. That's all right, man. But come up here to
We'll talk later. We'll talk.
Do the big time, fam. Nah.
Nagone is your plug, bro. Consigliere, he's your plug.
Yeah, no more South Poles and Shaq's.
Man.
Hey, I love South Poles and Shaq's.
Gophers running around and all like that. Nah, bro.
Gophers.
Baby, I don't know. We got gophers with armadillos and all that.
Oh shit!
No, get up over here. Let's get live. It's very live up here. Highly buttlerly. New York, and you can live here. You can live good. You can live good because you
can move to New Jersey like Cyberdyne, man, and pay less money.
Yeah.
You over here recruiting like a motherfucker, man.
Either way, you'll be getting paid. You'll be getting paid. 200 racks you'll be looking at for real dough. All right.
And the other thing is learning. We got to continue learning.
Yeah, you got to continue learning, man. But don't be afraid of this fucking big city, man. I'm telling you, and the shit is live. You got a few ducats in your pocket. The clubs are hot. Everything is fucking banging up in here, dog. You got some dough. New York's a nice place. B. Chasing them armadillos down there, programming with them armadillos and shit, man. I don't know about that. Anyway, all right.
Yeah. Let me get to Judge Zilla's question. He says, "What do they pay data scientists in Brazil?" We actually covered this maybe a couple of weeks ago, but in Brazil, you'll make $80,000 to $85,000 American money in Brazil.
I'll tell you right now, in Brazil, okay, in reais, you will make you'll make about 200,000 reais. So to the American dollar. So so it'll be like a 4-to-1 exchange or so. You rolling with that kind of rack. You got a 12-incher. You're walking around banging everything that moves. And I'm not talking about literally. I'm just saying you're in stone control. There's nothing stopping you, bro. You're walking around. Everything is at your command. Everything. You are exceedingly live down there. Exceedingly live. just rolling. You're cold rolling. It's a wrap. It's a wrap. It's a wrap. It's a wrap.
And again, it's not going to take you a month to learn data science. It's going to take you time to learn and apply the algorithms, to understand data science, to understand every part of it, to understand how to clean your data, to understand how to understand even again, with the use of decision trees, just to understand all that, it takes time and patience. You will not learn it in a day, but once you learn it and get it, it's easy. So again, it takes time. It's not something you're gonna learn in a month.
You're right, man. You need to come to New York, dude. I'm serious. Like I'm right now. I'm tired. Right now, I'm tired. You need to come here.
It's not a game.
We'll talk, man.
Help me laughing, man. But I ain't playing, man. For real.
No. It's serious business, man. And that's why we have these tech talks, because a lot of these are discussions in the manosphere. All talk about SYSBM and SYSBM that. I don't realize this is SYSBM, what we're doing right now. This is more HOTEP than anything else. And I think SYSBM is HOTEP. So therefore, it makes a lot of sense for us to have these discussions, because where else are you going to get this sort of discussion? Where else are you going to get it? You're not going to get it from some of these other reptiles who piping off. I'm going to put a hot one.
Somebody putting hot ones in people and all that. Nah, that's a waste of time. No. For real, we're not wasting time here. We're talking seriously. Guy with your skills, Cannabis, you can do pretty well, and that is no joke. You just go online and start looking at what some of the opportunities here in New York are. It's highly butter-like. So you rap with me. We get you, we get you going. Boy, we get you going.
Yeah, let me pull up Coursera's site. Actually, let me pull up Udacity, because Udacity would be actually make a lot more sense. Let me share my screen, because sale ends Tuesday. Get 50% off all nano degree programs. 50% off. I don't see how you can beat 50% off. It's better than paying 100%.
Damn right.
Let me enroll right now.
50 is half.
Yeah. And so we can go to data science right here. They just so happen to have a data science nano degree program. 50% off. Can't beat it. All right. Yeah, they're really trying to push this.
I'm telling you, they push it because they know that all these openings that are out there. We keep talking about it.
Mm-hmm.
Got some SYSBM and everything else like that. You got a million open recs in the tech game. A million open recs. That's SYSBM right there. Nobody talking about it, but we talk about it here though.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
I'm about to say we talk about it. That's for sure.
You know it, Complex. You know it.
Yeah. So here we have the it says your path to the right job of data analyst, data science, data engineer, business analyst. Let's go to data scientists. And it says there is a shortage of qualified data scientists in the workforce and individuals.
Oh, really? I didn't know that.
Mm-hmm. Build skills in programming, data wrangling, machine learning, experiment design, and data visualization, and launch a career in data science. And so there's 4 steps that they have. Programming for data science with Python. So we talked about this earlier. This is at the beginner level. Step 2 is data analyst. Data wrangling and matplot, bootstrapping, pandas, and NumPy. So that's a version of Python for statistics. You got data scientists at step 3. This is more advanced. And then data structures and algorithms. They're talking about 50% off. I don't see how you can go wrong with that. I don't even know what it costs for the programming. Actually, let's see what it. Let's see. I'm not registered, so I can't really see it. But at 50% off, I don't say you can go wrong with this. I'll drop this in the chat for someone who may be interested in this.
And the course gives you the NumPy, the C, all those are just the libraries. And when you use Python with that, it's easy. Especially when you import all those libraries and you start writing the algorithms, you can write linear equation, logistics. You can do a decision tree quickly there. There's a lot you can do with Python that's remarkable. So the data science and Python, it's sometimes I use R and SQL, but Python is the best language I've seen for data science.
How much JavaScript? How much JavaScript are you using on that as well? Because JavaScript is another.
I've used JavaScript, but JavaScript isn't. I would say it's not that easy to use. It's not. I use a lot of. I don't use much of it. I just use a few of it. But Python is what I use.
But you use JavaScript and JSON just for the API aspect. You're not
the API, exactly correct.
You can use JSON for Python. You can use JSON too in Python for blockchain. I use JSON in Python for blockchain development, scripting. If you go to Python, you can use JSON too. So you can use JavaScript and all that. It's nice, but Python is the best, even for blockchain.
Cannabis, what are you doing in blockchain right now?
I'm scripting. I'm right. It's taking me 6 months to script.
Listen to me.
Nagone 11 is your plug.
Listen to me.
You have to learn
email me today. Email me today. Today. I'm playing today. I'm not playing. Just email me today. All right.
Nagone 11 is your plug.
No.
Look.
Yeah, because JavaScript might be used less than 5% of the time in data science, but Python would be used almost 80% of the time. Unless you use something like R. But
R SQL, but Python is the best language for data science, because even for blockchain, when I started learning blockchain, especially creating hash private keys and all that, Python was much easier to learn how to basically create blocks and create hashings and all that. And even importing JSON, the library, man, Python was the best.
Yeah, a lot of guys. In fact, that's one of the languages. In fact, if people are really going to look to get into programming first, that's one of the preferred languages that one needs to use. Python, Java, JavaScript, C, C++, C#, SQL, SQL. Those are like that's kind of like almost your foundational game. There's a lot of other stuff out there, of course.
And I even learned how to use MATLAB, especially in mathematical model designs. I learned how to use MATLAB to basically design mathematical models. So there are a lot of languages, but preferably Python and JavaScript are basically the best of the best.
Yeah, those are really the two major, components in terms of this, man. Like if Yosemite Sam was a data scientist, man, that's what he'd be using, Python and R, as his two pistols.
R SQL.
Yep.
R SQL will help you arrange your database, employing algorithms and machine learning, Python.
Yeah. We need to get more guys like Judge Ziller and these guys into this type of stuff, man. Business intelligence, man. I don't know what he's doing right now. I think he was talking about something similar before. He said he's curious.
And Honeywell contacted me and said, "Hey, we'll give you this." I'm like, "I'm not ready to go to Charlotte. Not yet."
Yeah. Honeywell, all these companies are starting to build out IoT and stuff like that. So they're part of that consortium.
They have to.
And they're building blockchain technologies too, because I even asked, and I'm like, can I learn a little bit about that? So they're using it for aircraft, and man, it's something else.
Yeah, like how does an African find his way into New Mexico? How does that happen?
That's a long story.
I mean, where'd you get the electricity from?
Go ahead.
No,
quick question,
no, Josh, go ahead, dude. I'm totally being facetious.
Go ahead.
Nah, you good. I just wanted to ask, isn't like what is actually JSON? Is it a file or is it a language? Because I've used JSON files when I was trying to write Python, but I didn't know. Go ahead.
JSON is a library where basically they store different information about algorithms, or JSON also about keys on how to create hashing or algorithms. So it's a library.
It's a library that's used for
Okay.
It's a library used for intermediate access between the API and the host and the client.
Hey, Josh.
Okay, because I've pulled JSON. Well, I've pulled data from APIs and put them in a JSON file. That's what was confusing me, because it's the same. It's almost like it almost was to me like a CSV.
Yeah.
You know
Hey,
what I'm
Josh.
saying?
Yeah. It's like a big
Josh.
library.
Yes.
You have my phone number?
No. If you can, just send it to me in the back end or whatever.
Yeah. Just hit me up, because
all right, I email you.
Yeah. Email me. So because I got to talk with you. All right. So just
we should be on the email chain. So
yeah. Just email me. Email me today, okay?
Okay,
Cannabis,
I will.
Please hit me up, dog. I don't know what is this brother thinking? You're over there. You're in New. Nah, dog. It's
down there with Exhibit. Him and Exhibit are down there, pimping.
Man, what you doing? Exhibit in LA, man. He in LA, bro. He bounced a grip ago, man. That nigga's all LA. Hey, but real talk though is is cannabis legal? Is it like recreationally legal in New York?
I thought that's still on the docket. I thought that Cuomo was still.
Okay, they haven't done it yet.
No, they're not done it yet.
In New York City, they really ain't busting you like they were busting people years before. They're not doing that now.
I'm trying to help you out here to go, because I'm like, okay, well, look, what if they got like a whole sort of recreational legal market?
No, they don't.
Hey, man, I'm trying to make it attractive for a brother. Yeah, that's all I'm trying to do.
Man,
I'm trying to sell it. You know what I'm saying?
I'm following you, fam. I'm following you.
Oh, you go ahead and mute.
Oh, I'm on the same page. Okay, all right.
Just like Young M.A. Ooh,
I'm following you.
Ooh.
Shit. Yeah, man, cannabis. I hear you. I understand what he's doing, man. Because New York is really pressing hard for that right now. And in fact, we had a gubernatorial candidate over the last year, Cynthia Nixon. You guys might have remember her from Sex and the City fame, and she actually was an actress, and she was actually trying to run for governor. She did an all right job, but that was one of the big platforms there was really getting the whole cannabis game totally legalized in New York, and literally having it set up in such a way that Black people will be able to benefit from it primarily first, because we were the ones who were arrested the most over this. So she looked at that as a form of reparations as well. Had a fairly progressive view towards that, which I liked. But the cannabis debate is still going on heavy here in New York, which I think it will ultimately it will go through. But we there's still a little more time on that. But you have a lot of people who are in favor.
I think it's going to happen in New York. It's going to happen sooner rather than later.
Yeah. I would agree.
Yep. We got 40 people watching, only 35 likes. Please click the button if you're not already done so.
Folks, let's try to make the ratio 1.
Yeah, let me see. What were some of the questions in the chat? Richard Victor Dixon was not able to join the panel today. He is a student, or a former student of Sub-Zero's BI DBA class. So I wanted to talk more about that, but we don't have any former students from there, or any current students who are there under Sub-Zero's tutelage right now. So
the one.
Yeah, under his tutelage.
So shout out to
Sub-Zero, Holly Butterley.
Yeah, so I don't even have a link or anything like that can actually send you back over there. I've heard positive things about it. I haven't taken it myself, so I can't really.
I did take a SQL course with him. I was trying to basically get my SQL back, so I did take a course with SQL, and it was good.
Yep.
Real good.
Again, shout out to the brother, man.
Yeah. No. He's on top of it. He's definitely you know, a lot of people have kind of have you know mess with him. He's definitely got it going on. So I think we don't bring him up as much, but he definitely is on top of it. He should be, coming up, we should have him on the Brain Trust every now and again if he could roll through. But he's definitely on top of it. He's definitely doing that good work.
Yeah, I hear he's definitely on his grind, so I totally understand if, priority is to, handle those courses that he's doing. So, like I said, I just commend the brother because I've heard it from different people in the manosphere, and I think the dude is just really consistent.
Yeah. He
shout out.
Yeah. He's putting in the good work, man. Shout out to you. Yeah, shout out to you, bro. Butter late.
It's amazing. We ask people to hit the like button. They left. It's interesting. Do you have access to one rec, Nicole?
Not in front of my thing right now. I'll send some recs over to you later, Mike. I want to get all that together.
It'll be too late if the live stream is over, but I thought we could just pull up one real quick. But let me just look for a DBA. Let me look on Indeed.
Real quick. The Geek Surgeon said, I'm a Sub-Zero student. And Anthony Anderson said, we have a few here. It's from Sub-Zero's class, recent graduate from his boot camp, interviewing now. Good shit. See, this is what I'm talking about, man. Love to hear that.
All right, let me share my screen real quick and then we'll close out. All right, this is the Oracle DBA remote role. Coordinates physical changes to computer databases, encodes, tests, and implements physical databases by performing the following duties. This role is on site, but it's also remote. Includes the following other duties may be assigned. Deep understanding of Oracle high availability technologies, data guards, standbys, RAC, how Oracle and the OS integrate. That's pretty simple. Third-party backup tape solutions, integration with Oracle software, that's pretty standard. Deep understanding of Oracle backup and recovery, standard. Automated storage management, database administration, standard. Deep knowledge of various operating systems on which customers run Oracle. Something you need to study up on. Assist with interviewing candidates for team growth. Customer management account administration, that's pretty standard. Technical support for Oracle, including management of databases and listeners and other database components, that's pretty standard.
What release of Oracle are they dealing with? Is he doing DBA Oracle 12?
12C.
Huh?
12C.
12C, okay.
Perform ongoing database administration, maintenance, performance, installation, upgrades, backup, and recovery of Oracle databases. Standard. Provide on-call support as part of a rotational schedule as standard. Ensure continued high customer satisfaction, standard stuff. It's all soft skills. Work with customers to measure and manage service levels, standard stuff. Oversee the completion of projects, including planning, assigning, monitoring, reviewing progress, and evaluating results. So this is a part of the this is a part of DevOps. So this is pretty standard as well. You should actually understand DevOps as or ITIL. If you don't understand either one, ITIL is what you kind of start off with, but DevOps is usually where you end. Ensure effective flow of communication between the DBA team, customers, and management. That is very standard stuff. This is all basics that you should have going into this. Reviews and help correct SQL code for performance improvements. We talked about that earlier. That's pretty standard stuff that you need to know going into this. Provide assistance in understanding the technologies and related topics. That's pretty standard stuff, man, from a tech role. Answer user questions regarding government and project planning. Answer user questions regarding environment and project planning. Okay, that's standard stuff as well. So someone's going to ask you something about some of the database structures and stuff like that. That's a part of it. Answer user questions regarding environment and project planning. Confers with coworkers to determine impact of databases, changes in other systems, and staff costs for making changes to a database. Yeah, so that's all the managerial stuff. Modify SQL to increase processing performance, referred to as performance tuning. We talked about that earlier, right? Performance tuning.
Performance tuning. I was getting ready to mention that. Yep, performance tuning. Yep. Go ahead, Mike.
Performs the essential functions of the job within a certain period based on the statement of work, SOW, or client project. So this is all pretty basic DBA stuff. I mean, it doesn't get any more simplistic than this. I mean, no fluff in this. There's no fluff in this. This is all straightforward, straight to the point, and it's remote too. So you can do a lot of this work remote. I usually like to come into the office once a week or once a month, if I can, just to show my face. Need to know Oracle 12c, Oracle ASM, automated storage management, grid control, Solaris 11. That's really old, but
that's really old. That's really old.
Yeah, that's
damn, Sun Solaris. Oh shit, that's old. Damn. See, that's the whole thing about the whole technology game. I know there's a lot of new stuff out there, but there's so many offices and so many businesses, so many companies that still have a lot of old stuff around. Some guys are still rolling with some of the old Unix boxes and they're mixing in and they got some of the new stuff that's in there, but some guys are still running on, some old Unix SCO and SA. I mean, it's crazy. I mean, there's a lot of shit going on. So that's why a lot of this technology that I think a lot of people are saying, well, it's supposed to be over, it's supposed to be done. This shit's still going to be around for a while. So that's why having these skills and working in places and knowing some of the older stuff and then knowing the newer stuff is definitely within everyone's advantage. Because not everybody's up to, what I would like to say the 21st century game. I hate to say it, I hate to put it like that, but that's where you're at.
Yeah. So OEM RMON backup. So that's pretty simplistic. It's a part of some of their strategies. Says Golden Gate, Oracle, ACFS. These are all things that you should know going into this. Oracle failsafe. You should know Windows. Oracle work with Oracle support and service requests. I don't see how that could be a challenge to anyone.
What kind of methodologies are they playing with, Mike?
In terms of what methodology are you referring to? In terms of
are we looking at? I'm talking about from as far as software development, SDLC.
They're talking SDLC, but from a DevOps standpoint,
right?
You work at speed, not work at standard practice, but at speed. So that's what it sounds like they're using here. Okay. OS tools for troubleshoot issues, network process, storage. These are all simplistic things. This is what a DBA does on a day-to-day basis. So if we look at the salary estimates, let's see if this is here. Yeah, so you're looking at anywhere between 86,000 to 120,000 a year. So if you're going to base your when they ask you what your salary is going to be, you're going to set it in between that 90,000 to 120K mark. You let them throw the number out first. This is my advice. Let them throw the number out first if they haven't spoken about their number. If they ask you what your number is, you want to make sure you use this sort of barometer here.
Well, they want to throw the numbers out first. What you want to find out is, let's talk a little more about the job. Let's see a little bit more about what's really going on here, and then really get a good sense of exactly what's happening. sometimes they want to throw a number out, lowball you a little bit. Next thing you know, you're stepping into a pile of elephant dung. You know what I mean? There's a lot of crap going on, and you might say, hey, I got played a little bit. So you want to hear the whole job out, hear everything else, get through the whole game plan, go through the whole interview process, basically, and say, then let's talk numbers. Let's talk numbers at the end. What that does, it puts a lot more pressure on them to have to come up with the right number. All right.
And it depends. It depends. I've had, I've had job recruiters, for some organizations actually throw the number out up front within the first 5 minutes and say, what are you looking for salary wise, or this is what the role entails salary wise. What do you think? Well, that's too low for me. I'm not doing that. Have a good night. Right.
Yeah. They have to, but usually most are going to come and try to, competitive. But usually when they try to throw a number out, they're trying to lowball you a little bit. Okay, they're trying to lowball you a little bit. They're trying to get you a little bit cheaper. It's business. This is budgetary issues. So they're trying to get you as cheap as possible. I don't hold that against them. But at the end of the day, it's not your job to walk in there and get lowball. Your job is to get as much as you can walking out of there. So you just it's a negotiation. So you're going to come, you're going to come somewhere in between the middle. That's how that ideally should be played. But anyway, we can get into that all day long, salary negotiations, which is a whole art craft in itself. But go ahead, Mike.
No, that's about it, man. I think that if you follow some of the stuff that we talked about at the onset of this live stream, man, get your cert first, and take these courses and whatnot. Maybe go to Sub-Zero's place, or even if you want to go to Udacity or some of these other places, EDX. I think getting it together first and then going out and trying to find these jobs is going to be more important than trying to find a job and then trying to scramble later. That's what,
correct.
Upskilling that you see a lot of these guys, or a lot of these people going through with it, I'm trying to, about, Mongo or Couch or Cassandra or some other database system, is because they didn't really take the time to actually study it before. They just jumped into a role. Maybe they got thrown into a role. That happens too. Some person vanishes from a company because they went on sabbatical or something like that, and now you got all these responsibilities coming down to your plate as a help desk person, or as a desktop person, or some kind of network person, and you're taking on these sort of responsibilities that are outside of your realm. That happens.
Hey,
great point, Mike.
Wait a minute. I think there was something in the chat here. Oh, Mike, can you drop the email, the Brain Trust email? There's somebody in the chat that had a question about mentorship.
I actually don't have it, to be honest with you. I don't have it on me. Raining Woman.
If Raining Woman is around.
Yep. Let me.
Well, Sub-Zero looks like he's got a couple of good folks up in there, man. Sub-Zero looks like he's doing that work, man.
That's what I'm saying. Shout out to him, man. I've heard a lot of good things about.
He looks like he's doing that work, man.
Yeah, so shout out to him.
Sub-Zero, damn. All right, I'm loving that.
Yeah, it sounds like Vision might be a SQL person himself. He's putting a lot of SQL code inside the chat. So.
Yeah, I see Vision here. Vision, what's up, man? Shout yourself out, fam.
Yeah, I think he's more of an Excel person though. But
he's
whatever.
Just XML and raw.
Hey, Nagone, I sent you an email. So.
Very good, family. We gonna talk. Just give me a little bit.
Okay.
Yeah. All right. Thank you all for joining us. Please hit the like button if you've not already done so. Share the video if possible. Also hit that notification bell so you get all the updates from the Black Brain Trust, including those posted on the community tab. Document description beneath the video for you to follow along with. If you're trying to get into IT for the first time and you need some mentorship, we do offer IT mentorship. If you're trying to transition from one IT role to another, we do offer IT coaching. If you are in the New York area, you're looking for Rex in the tri-state area, Nagone 11 does have Rex on the table.
Yes, I do.
Ahem.
Cannabis. What's up?
All right, Hotep.